Hello there, I'm Nadia Azmi and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Government strives to ease cost of living, says Prime Minister. Policeman charged with murder of Farah Kartini. And Zayn Rayyan murder case, name change, new birth certificate submitted in court. Good morning. A police lance corporal was charged at the Kuala Kubu Baru Magistrates Court on Friday with the murder of Farah Kartini Abdullah, whose body was found in an oil palm plantation 11 days ago. 26-year-old Muhammad Alif Monjani was charged under Section 302 of the Penal Code, which provides the death penalty upon conviction. Alif, who is a lance corporal stationed at the Slim River Police Station in Perak, arrived at the Kuala Kubu Baru Magistrates Court complex under heavy police guard at about 9 a.m. Representatives from both Farah Kartini and Alif's family were also seen entering the courtroom as the accused was brought in. According to the charge, Alif murdered Farah Kartini, a 25-year-old University Pendidikan Sultan Idris graduate at Ladang SKC Keledang in the Hulu Burnam sub-district in Hulu Selangor between 9 a.m. on July 10th until 6 p.m. July 15th. Alif nodded to indicate he understood the charge after it was read out to him before Sessions Court Judge Nurul Mardiah Muhammad Reza, who sat as magistrate for the proceedings. No plea was recorded as murder cases are under the jurisdiction of the High Court. The court set August 30th for mention of the case pending the completion of the DNA and telecommunications reports. September 18th has been set as the new mention date for the case against the parents of Zayn Rayyan Abdul Mateen, who were accused of neglecting their autistic child last December. The date was set to allow the prosecution to complete all related documents for the case. Zaim Ikhwan Zahari and his wife Ismanira Abdul Manaf were charged in the Petaling Jaya Sessions Court for neglecting the child in a manner likely to cause a physical injury. Deputy Public Prosecutor Nurul Kistini Kamarul Abrar informed the court that most of the trial documents, including statements from Zayn Rayyan's parents and photographs of the crime scene, have been handed over. However, the prosecution has yet to receive the autopsy report and CCTV footage, prompting the request for a new date to complete all documents. Lawyer Fahmi Abdul Moin also requested to amend the victim's name and informed Judge Dr. Shahliza Warno that the child's name should be changed from Zayn Rayyan Abdul Mateen to Zayn Rayyan bin Zaim Ikhwan. He added that they had received a document from the Selangor National Registration Department correcting the information in Zayn Rayyan's birth certificate on July 4th. The court then directed the prosecution to first confirm the information with JPN, and the matter will be reviewed during the next mention of the case. On June 13th, the couple pleaded not guilty to a charge of jointly having custody of their son, Zayn Rayyan, and neglecting him in a manner likely to cause physical injury. The charge is framed under Section 31, subsection 1A of the Child Act 2001. The government is committed to continuing its efforts to address the cost of living and alleviate the people's burden. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said with various measures taken, the inflation rate has been successfully controlled at 2%, while unemployment remains stable at 3.3%. The government is committed to continuing its efforts to address the cost of living and alleviate the people's burden. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said with various measures taken, the inflation rate has been successfully controlled at 2%, while unemployment remains stable at 3.3%. Speaking at the National Cooperative Congress 2024 closing ceremony on Friday, the Prime Minister noted the ringgit's recent strengthening as well as a 5.8% economic growth in the second quarter of this year.
Kalau saya tanya saya, apakah saya puas hati? Saya tidak puas hati. Kerana masih kita hadapi masalah kos sara hidup, kadang harga barang di setengah tempat yang menekan kadar kehidupan.
Anwar emphasised that the government is continually seeking solutions to the cost of living issue, including the Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah totalling 10 billion ringgit to 9 million people. He also highlighted the government's move to review the Public Service Remuneration System (SSPA) to raise civil servants' salaries as an effort to alleviate living costs. The new remuneration scheme for civil servants that will be announced in October would see the highest increment in the country's history, exceeding 15%. At the same event, the Prime Minister announced an allocation of 6 million ringgit for Angkatan Koperasi Kebangsaan Malaysia Berhad Angkasa to strengthen the cooperative movement in the country. Of the total, he said 2 million ringgit would be adjusted from the Rahmah Sale allocation under the Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry.
Kita ada perkampungan madani. Dan sekarang kampung-kampung madani diambil beberapa persatuan, jatuh kuasa masjid, persatuan belia, wanita. Saya nak masukkan koperasi di dalam kelompok itu. Dan apakah madani, saya nak mulakan supaya juga dalam program itu 2 juta ringgit disalur terus melalui angkasa.
Anwar said 1 million ringgit will be set aside as a new allocation for the ASEAN Cooperatives Programme throughout Malaysia's 2025 ASEAN Chairmanship. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said Putrajaya has agreed in principle to amend several legal provisions to turn cooperatives into business entities. According to Anwar, the draft of the amendment bill is being finalised by the Attorney General's Chambers, AGC, and the early draft is expected to be brought to the Cabinet in about 2 months' time. On another matter, the Prime Minister has directed Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL to resolve the impasse over the redevelopment of Pasar Datuk Keramat, which has been delayed for 6 years. He wants the issue to be given attention and priority given the dilapidated condition of the market.
Pasar Datuk Keramat ni saya tengok memang masalahnya dulu dah bandaraya beri kepada syarikat swasta, gagal, jadi bandaraya baru ambil balik. Jadi saya fikir kena bagi perhatian kerana keadaannya sangat taif.
Ada tempoh tak boleh?
Banyak soalan baru pergi tadi. Jadi insyaAllah saya dah bagi tahu Saudara Jogani untuk bandar-bandar kita bagi perhatian, bagi utama kerana saya ingat tak boleh bertahan cara begitu itu sangat taif.
The Prime Minister said the matter has also been relayed to Titiwangsa MP Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani, who is also Plantation and Commodities Minister. Earlier, Anwar made an unannounced visit to Pasar Datuk Keramat. The Prime Minister also visited the DBKL stalls at the Jalan Raja Muda Abdul Aziz Food Court. Meanwhile, Johari explained that the issue involving Pasar Datuk Keramat has been resolved and the project has been returned to DBKL, and it is now up to DBKL to take the next course of action to redevelop the market.
Tanah ni kepada developer yang janji nak bangunkan Pasar Keramat. Jadi apa berlaku selepas 6 tahun, dia tak buat. Jadi bila dia tak buat, jadi DBKL nak buat pun tak boleh, nak membaiki pun tak boleh. Sebab salah pasal tanah tu dia dah bayar 10% tak silap saya. Tapi 6 bulan dia tak, dah 6 tahun tak buat. Jadi apa berlaku? Jadi saya desak, lepas saya jadi balik wakil rakyat tu, saya desak DBKL cakap you better withdraw balik. Kalau dia tak mampu, why must you keep land tu dekat dia? So finally saya diberitahu oleh DBKL dah settle. Mana pemaju dah pulang balik tanah tu.
The Titiwangsa MP earlier joined the Prime Minister in performing Friday prayers at Masjid Ibn Mas'ud, Jalan Damai. Anwar was welcomed by the chairman of the mosque, Datuk Said Osman Said Omar. The Education Ministry MOE said it will maintain the existing guidelines on donations to schools. It said that the Cabinet agreed on the matter on Wednesday and that such contributions cannot display or promote alcohol within school premises. In a statement on Friday, the MOE said that the Cabinet meeting also agreed to allow vernacular schools to receive donations through their Board of Directors or Foundation. The ministry also mentioned that this practice has been in place for several administrations and has never been questioned by any party. However, the cabinet emphasised that activities involving alcohol brands must not involve Muslim students. Previously, the MOE said it was investigating a fundraiser program organised by a school in Selangor that allegedly involved a donation from a liquor company. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi on Friday stated that the company had only sponsored a charity concert for a fundraiser and did not directly channel any funds to the school. The National Water Services Commission SPAN is probing a suspect believed to be linked to the odour pollution of 2 rivers that led to water cuts in 7 districts across Kuala Lumpur and Selangor since Tuesday. In a statement, SPAN said it was investigating the suspect under the Water Industry Act for contaminating water sources. Following the odour pollution, an investigation paper had been opened on July 24th against the identified suspect in the case. Those convicted under the Act could be jailed for up to 10 years or fined not exceeding 500,000 ringgit. Meanwhile, SPAN said it would also be setting up a special committee to gather information, among others, on water disruptions due to pollution and subsequently propose best practices. It said that various government agencies and quarters would be roped in, including the Environment Department, local councils and water concessionaires. The committee will be set up immediately and is expected to complete its work within 45 days from its first session. On Wednesday, the Environment Department confirmed that effluent from a leaking tank at a factory caused polymethacrylic acid waste to overflow into drains and ditches leading up to Sungai Kuang. The odour pollution had resulted in the temporary shutdown of the Rantau Panjang, Sungai Selangor Phase 1, Sungai Selangor Phase 2 and Sungai Selangor Phase 3 water treatment plants, resulting in water cuts that affected over 1 million consumers. Rural sabotage plays havoc with opening of Paris Olympics. This and more from the Foreign Front when we return.
Bagai? Bagai?
Oh, peraduan yang teka peribahasa.
Ya, boleh teka tak? Aku nak hantar penyertaan di bigtree.com.my. Mana tahu boleh menang gadget.
Jangan lupa, clue hanya di papan iklan digital Big Tree sehingga 31 Julai. Layari bigtree.com.my untuk info lanjut.
Exploring Malaysia's ambitious goal to rank among the top 20 global startup ecosystems by 2030. Effective policies, international expansion challenges and the societal impacts of Malaysia's dynamic startup scene. Money Matters with Chairman of the Malaysia Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, Eng Sai Kit, this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton.
Cabaran hidup pesakit kanser.
Tahu je ada kanser, terus tanya doktor berapa lama lagi boleh hidup.
Dan doktor sahkan memang hanya 6 bulan je untuk hidup.
Pengesanan awal meningkatkan peluang untuk sembuh.
Kanser bukan satu perkataan macam pasien dapat kanser, dia akan mati. Sekarang treatment ada banyak.
Kanser bukan satu pengakhiran. Kami bincangkan di Hello Doktor, Ahad 5.30 petang di TV3 dan stream juga melalui Tonton. Welcome back. France's high-speed rail network was hit by a series of malicious acts on Friday, just hours before the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. According to its national rail operator, SNCF, the country's high-speed TGV rail network has been struck by acts of sabotage, including arson attacks that have disrupted the transport system. The operator added that many routes would have to be cancelled and the situation would last at least all weekend while repairs are conducted. By mid-morning, the company said some 800,000 passengers were affected. SNCF said vandalism on multiple routes was also seriously disrupting traffic and that deliberate fires were started to damage the installations. Authorities are now investigating the incidents. No one has claimed responsibility for the attacks, but given their scale and precision, it is clear they are more than just random acts of vandalism. Record heavy rains have forced the evacuation of thousands of people across northern Japan on Friday as rivers burst their banks, washing away bridges and cars. At least one person was killed and 4 missing after the downpours in the Yamagata and Akita prefectures. A man in his 60s went missing after a landslide in Yuzawa City, while one body was found in Akita City. Meanwhile, in Yamagata, where 2 rivers burst their banks, 3 people, including 2 police officers who were searching for a missing man, are still unaccounted for. Due to the heavy rains, authorities have issued evacuation advisories to more than 200,000 people. It was reported that about 3,060 households were left without power and 1,100 had no running water. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, 2 parts of Yamagata Prefecture recorded the most rain in 24 hours since 1976. Elsewhere, authorities evacuated nearly 300,000 people across eastern China on Friday as Typhoon Gaimi brought torrential rains already responsible for 5 deaths in nearby Taiwan and the Philippines. More than 290,000 people living in Fujian province have been relocated to safer areas as China activated its highest-tier disaster warning in anticipation of the deadly storm. Train services were also suspended while authorities in northern China warned that the heavy rains could trigger landslides and flooding. China's weather network said the typhoon was moving northwestward at about 20 kilometers per hour. It comes after widespread flooding and landslides across Taiwan and the Philippines, killing at least 21 people. The United Kingdom on Friday said it will not proceed with efforts to question whether the International Criminal Court (ICC) has jurisdiction to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's spokesperson said the government will not be pursuing the proposal in line with their long-standing position that this is a matter for the court to decide on. The decision puts distance between Starmer's new Labour government and the plans of former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who had planned to challenge the warrant. Analysts, meanwhile, said it would not make sense for Starmer and his party to tie their political future, credibility and standing in the Middle East and the rest of the world by coupling their policy to that of a war criminal. Over in the US, President Joe Biden ratcheted up pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to accept an elusive ceasefire deal with Hamas during meetings in Washington, D.C. According to a readout from the White House released on Thursday, Biden stressed the need to finalize the deal as soon as possible. It also said the president raised the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the need to remove any obstacles to help the flow of aid, and the critical importance of protecting civilian lives during military operations. However, despite the pressure, Israel appeared to have issued new demands in the negotiations for an agreement to secure the release of dozens of prisoners held in Gaza in exchange for a halt in the war. Multiple sources stress that no major announcement about an agreement is expected soon. However, officials have voiced increased optimism about the prospects of an agreement. Meanwhile, United States Vice President Kamala Harris has pledged not to stay silent about the sufferings in Gaza, shifting her emphasis to the plight of Palestinians as the de facto presidential nominee walks a fine line on the conflict dividing her Democratic Party. Speaking to reporters after a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington on Thursday, Harris said that her commitment to Israel's existence and security was unwavering, but that far too many innocent civilians had been killed in the war. She also said she had urged Netanyahu to agree to a US-backed ceasefire proposal. From when I was JDT trashed Terengganu 4-0. Football action from the Super League when we come back.
Exploring Malaysia's ambitious goal to rank among the top 20 global startup ecosystems by 2030. Effective policies, international expansion challenges, and the societal impacts of Malaysia's dynamic startup scene. Money Matters with Chairman of the Malaysia Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, Eng Sai Kit, this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton.
Tanam padi dalam pasu, tekad dan usaha pasti membuahkan hasil.
Kita sendiri yang nak tentukan kita ni biasa-biasa ke, luar biasa ke, setkan matlamat hala tuju kita, kita fokus je.
Dia berani mencuba, dia tak buat separuh jalan lah.
Kita nak masak satu resipi istimewa dari Pulau Tioman, laksa pulau.
Saya Zayn Rayyan, jangan lupa saksikan saya di Nona hanya di TV3.
Nampak dia bertanggungjawab. Kawan-kawan dia ajak pergi mana-mana. Dia kata tak boleh. Kena jaga mak.
Appointment kita tak boleh nak fail tau. Transportation tak ada, macam hujan. Hujan pakai raincoat kena pergi. I did it all by myself. With that red motorbike. Terpaksa dia nak buat macam mana.
And we're back with sports football, the Super League. 3 matches were played on Friday night. Perak FC secured a 3-1 win over Kelantan Darul Naim FC, while Kedah Darul Aman FC were held to a 1-1 draw by Kuching City FC. At the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium, Johor Darul Takzim JDT FC produced a dominant performance as they trashed Terengganu FC 4-0. Heberti Fernandez opened the scoring for the hosts just 6 minutes into the game before Bergson De Silva extended their advantage 26 minutes later from the penalty spot. JDT continued their scoring feast when De Silva once again slotted in the ball past the Turtles' goalkeeper, Syed Muhammad Nasrul Haq Syed Bidin, 19 minutes after half-time. Any hope of a comeback for Terengganu were dashed when De Silva completed a hat-trick 2 minutes into extra time, putting the results beyond doubt for the Southern Tigers. With the results, JDT now have 18 points, while Terengganu are in 4th place with 8 points. On to the 2024 Paris Olympics. After months of preparations, the opening ceremony for the Games are set for Friday evening local time. Residents of the French capital woke up to a heavy police presence across the city ahead of the event. Instead of a traditional march into a stadium, about 6,800 athletes will parade on more than 90 boats on the Seine River for 6 kilometers. This will start the ceremony, not mark the end of it, another break from tradition. The ceremony starts at 1:30 p.m. local time and is expected to last more than 3 hours. Moving on to tennis now, the 2024 Croatia Open. Russian Andrei Rublev is through to his first semi-finals since he won the Madrid title in May after a comeback win against Hungarian Fabian Marozsan. The top seed earned a 5-7, 6-3, 6-2 victory to reach the semi-finals at the ITC Stella Maris in Umag. With the win, Rublev set up a Friday showdown with 4th seed Francisco Cerundolo in what will be his 40th tour-level semi-final. Earlier, number 4 seed Cerundolo edged out Italian Lorenzo Sonego 6-4, 2-6, 7-6-2 in a battle that lasted 2 hours and 33 minutes. This will be the 3rd time that Cerundolo and Rublev square off, with previous matches resulting in a tied head-to-head record of 1-1. Joining them was 2nd seed Lorenzo Musetti, who advanced into the semi-finals after winning against Serb Dusan Lajovic 5-7, 6-3, 6-0. Italian Musetti will face Jakub Mensik in the last 4 next. LCS scandal, ex-Navy chief fails to quash 3 CBT charges. The details after this short break.
Nampak dia bertanggungjawab. Kawan-kawan dia ajak pergi mana-mana, dia kata tak boleh. Kena jaga mak.
Appointment kita tak boleh nak fail tau. Transportation tak ada, macam hujan. Hujan pakai raincoat kena pergi adik. I did it all by myself. Big Dad hit motorbike. Terpaksa adik nak buat macam mana.
Exploring Malaysia's ambitious goal to rank among the top 20 global startup ecosystems by 2030. Effective policies, international expansion challenges, and the societal impacts of Malaysia's dynamic startup scene. Money Matters with Chairman of the Malaysia Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, Eng Sai Kit, this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton.
Tanam padi dalam pasu, tekad dan usaha pasti membuahkan hasil.
Kita sendiri yang nak tentukan kita ni biasa-biasa ke, luar biasa ke, setkan matlamat hala tuju kita fokus je.
Dia berani mencuba, dia tak buat separuh jalan lah.
Kita nak masak satu resipi istimewa dari Buletin laksa pulau.
Saya Nadia, jangan lupa saksikan saya di Nona hanya di TV3.
Welcome back. At the Kuala Lumpur High Court, former Bousted Naval Shipyard BNS Managing Director Tan Sri Ahmad Ramli Muhammad Noor failed to quash his 3 counts of criminal breach of trust CBT involving over 21 million ringgit related to the Royal Malaysian Navy's Littoral Combat Ship LCS project. Judge Datuk Azhar Abdul Hamid dismissed Ramli's application on Friday, ruling that the issue of the applicant's mental fitness to stand trial and defend himself needs to be assessed by a trial judge. During the proceedings, the High Court also ordered the case to be returned to the Sessions Court before Judge Suzana Hussain. The 80-year-old accused, who is also former Navy chief, filed the application in April through his lawyer on grounds that he was confirmed to be suffering from dementia. The next case mentioned has been scheduled for July 30th at the Sessions Court. According to the charge sheet, Ramli, in his capacity as the then BNS Managing Director, was alleged to have approved 3 separate payments amounting to 21.08 million ringgit to 3 Singaporean companies without BNN's Board of Directors' approval between 2010 and 2011. The offence under the Penal Code provides for between 2 and 20 years imprisonment with caning and a possible fine upon conviction. However, caning cannot be imposed on female offenders or males over the age of 50. In Perak, a 16-year-old Myanmar teenager suspected of being exploited for forced labour was rescued after a recycling factory in Timor was raided by authorities on Thursday. This led to the police detaining a 49-year-old local man acting as the factory director for investigations. In the 3:30 p.m. joint operation led by the police, 27 foreign workers, comprising nationals from Myanmar and China, aged 30 to 55, were also nabbed for various offences. Perak Police Chief Datuk Azizi Mat Aris said the local man is being investigated under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act, as well as the Immigration Act. While the arrested foreign workers are being investigated under the Immigration Act for not having valid travel documents and under the immigration regulations for violating past conditions. The factory was also found to be in violation of regulations under the Labour Department. The Department of Environment also took action against the factory for not complying with the Environment Quality Act. As Nightline draws to a close this time around, let's take a look as thousands of rubber ducks race to the finish line in central London in an event supporting Cosmic Charity, who look after babies and children in intensive care. With that, I'm Nadia Azmi. Thank you for tuning in and have a good weekend.